I am excited to have Heather Woods join our session today. She is a cloud engineer. She's an expert level problem solver with a diverse background as a software engineer, data engineer, and cloud architect. She's a lifelong learner. This I have observed for sure through the years that I've known her. She's a ferocious learner and always impressed me in how much she continues to learn and keeps me motivated to and to keep learning as well. She's a self-described recovering perfectionist, and she's also a man of twins, woman in tech, and she's not easily scared. She has grown her career with her never-ending search to learn. She holds a bachelor degree in computer science and mathematics from Tusculum University and a master's degree in computer science from East Tennessee State University. And let's do you want to just add to that, Heather, a little bit before we start? I must start asking you a few questions.
You want to just go for it? You want to start asking me questions?
Okay, sure. I'm actually, so you may be touching on this a little bit, but what's the one thing that motivated you from going from pure software engineering to data engineering?
So, I was at a job where I was a software engineer, and they and it happened when I was sort of mid-career-ish. I consider myself sort of mid-career. And I was just thinking about how like the next half of my career was gonna go, how is it gonna turn out? And I was feeling a little bit stuck in that role because the company was sort of anti-cloud. And I was feeling stuck, like there wasn't a way for me to learn cloud there. And I just wanted to make sure that I would stay relevant for the next half of my career.
And so if you wanna say save it for later, let me know also, but because I may ask you questions that you may be touching on your presentation. But I'm also really curious, so like when was like your tipping point, or like, okay, I need to start self-learning in order to make this switch or like go to my next level? What was that pivot point for you? Besides like, that being feeling stuck. It's like
Yeah,
the lighting bulb moment. I was like, oh, this is what I need to do.
well, I think it started like the timing of it, it started probably around 2018-ish when I just really started feeling restless. I just felt very restless all the time in my career. And I started I had also at that time I had started to hear about this about excuse me, the job of being a data scientist. And I actually really thought that I wanted to be a data scientist, but what I was finding is that I couldn't get interviews because I had no data science skills, because I had never been employed as a data scientist. And so it just sort of like that just me wanting to become a data scientist, it sort of led into, well, oh, well, if I'm going to be dealing with data, I'm probably going to have to learn the cloud. And then I realized as I started learning about cloud, I was like, oh, there's a job I didn't even know at the time, right? There's a job called cloud data engineer. And that is like super close to what I did as a software engineer because I had always been involved in the data side of things too. So it was just sort of like this progression that happened that it was like I guess data engineer was like the intersection of like what I had work experience doing, but plus adding just a little bit more, like adding like one little certification and working on things on my own.
And before you started learning about the cloud, were you also always like trying to learn new things, or did you start learning more in during that time?
I think I had always been a learner, but I think my learning had always been tied to what my employer needed at the time instead of just like what am I interested in or like where are things heading. So I do feel like kind of like about 2018, that was when I really started to be, that's why I'm calling this strategic. Like I tried to start being more strategic about my learning and not just focused on what my employer was specifically asking me to learn.
Okay. Yeah, it's always kind of an interesting pivot when people have like this moment of like, oh, I really want to learn, but like you said, being strategic about it, how to make that align with your interests. So with that, I think maybe this is like a good pivot for you to start talking a little bit about it. And of course, she's gonna have a lot of prompts, so feel free to join in to the chat or feel free to unmute if you prefer.
Yeah.
And I will for sure have a lot of questions. So let's get started.
Okay, absolutely. Seriously, y- everybody, like I've got the Zoom window over here, so I'm kind of looking there, looking at my presentation, but y'all interrupt me with questions, come off mute, add stuff in the chat. I'm actually not seeing messages in the chat yet. Have people started putting messages in there? That's one
Yeah.
thing I'm not seeing. Okay,
I mean,
let's see here.
Elhan says that they're currently diving deeper into data analytics and uh, grading senior in data science. So, and then Kay is doing a master in arterial artificial intelligence, maybe at USD, or and they also love Shiny App. So that's where I saw the Shiny App comment.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm glad there's chats going on. You guys can help me try to keep me informed too of the chats because I'm not really sure where I need to be clicking to find the actual. I see
For sure.
some other chats, but just not this one. Okay, so here we go. Um, everyone can see the screen still. I guess everyone can see the presentation.
Yep.
Thumbs up. Okay. So I did want to talk about the why. So I'm glad you asked me those questions up front to start with. Like this picture, this to me is what it's like working in tech. And I see there's one person. Let me admit somebody too. I see a person. It's just there's so much to learn, so much, and never enough time. And so that's part of the reason that I wanted to do this talk and like just talk about, like I was saying, my experiences of pivoting from software engineering into cloud and into cloud data engineering. So the agenda, I was going to cover how to pick a topic, how to find time, how to stay motivated, how you can learn in public, how you can learn with others, and how you can stay organized. So first off, picking your topic. Um, people ask me this a lot of times of like, how do you decide what to learn? And so these are the tips that I have for that. So review job descriptions. So if your purpose for learning is to get a new job, start looking at those types of jobs that you are interested in and just see what skills are listed. One thing you could do is ask your network, so whether that's on LinkedIn or your in-person network, but just asking people that you trust, what is the next big thing? Where do you think things are going, whatever career that you're in? And if let's say you ask five people the same question and like three or four people give the same answer of, I think things are headed in this direction, that could be something interesting for you to learn and beneficial. Certifications. If you commit to doing a certification, it sort of it makes it a little easier because you don't really have to pick your topics because the certification will include, or require you to learn, a certain number of things. It could be that you just have a personal interest in something that you want to learn, and that's totally fine too. Those are usually the funnest things to learn about when it's just something you just want to learn. You could also ask your employer if they have any new projects starting soon or any strategic initiatives that they have that they're seeing a skills gap. you might be able to work with them and they might be more open to paying for your time or paying for the training if you did want to do learning in something entirely new. And I wanted to mention, what happens if your employer is asking you to learn something that you don't care about? So there's a mismatch there between what your employer needs and what you really are interested in. For me, I have a really hard time learning things that I'm not interested in. So I always, before I start learning, I try to make sure that it's going to benefit me somehow. And that looks different to each person, So if maybe if the topic isn't that interesting and it's not that much of a learning for you to do, maybe it could be beneficial because you can use it to demonstrate that you are able to like plan things and make goals, achieve set goals and achieve goals. So that's one way to look at it. But for me, I do find it really hard to learn things that aren't of interest to me. And so with that, just a pause to put some things in the chat, which we sort of already talked about this, maybe some people that just arrived. Does anyone want to share something that you have been wanting to learn or something that you're in progress of learning? And I'm going to click around to some more and see if I can find the chat here.
Yeah, so Nicole, do you want to? This is a little bit maybe something that you will touch on later, but would you like to ask this live, Nicole, or do you want me to read it? Okay, so she says, I have read that older people tend to work and learn alone, but younger people learn socially. What are some outlets other than meetup groups to learn socially, specifics, data analytics, and AI?
Okay, I have a couple slides about learning together and how you can learn together.
Mhm.
So we will get to that in just a few slides.
Okay, so hold on to this question, Nicole. And anything else that anybody else? Uh, I know Anna, you were talking about building apps, and some of your students. So even within your degree, is there something that you're particularly excited about? Let's see. Kelhan, like I know you said Tableau. What about Tableau that you will be interested in learning?
Okay, so I'm interested in learning more about data analytics side because I feel like I enjoy creating data visualizations in particular. And I've noticed with a lot of job positions, they have Tableau or just any BI tool for these kind of roles. And I just kind of want to branch out and learn about Tableau. I'm currently doing the Google Data Certificates, Data Analytics Certificate, and just diving more deeper into the BI tool just to give myself more of a competitive reach and better, I guess, enhance my ability to land an internship or like an entry level role.
Nice. Uh, and okay, you're like in a degree program. Would you like to share more of what you are interested in learning now?
Sure. Yeah, I'm currently taking a master program at UC San Diego. Um, Actually, I'm sorry, it's the University of San Diego. So it's a different school, it's a private school. And so far, I have a difficult time looking for an internship, and perhaps my skills is perhaps it's too specific, and maybe there are not a lot of opportunities out there. And so I wanted to learn more about other programming languages, such as building a web or just some other tools, so that I can probably help myself to get an internship role or a job. But yeah.
Nice. And let's see. This is a small group, so I know we have a few people here. Joanne, do you have anything that you're interested in learning?
I'm trying to just get like up to date with like anything AI. Now that I'm like unemployed and trying to keep my skills up to date and relevant. So
Nice. Anybody else that we would like to share? Or I'm also curious to hear what are, I mean, obviously, employment is a strong motivator for those of us looking for employment or those of us looking for getting a promotion. But I'm also curious about hearing what else is a motivator for other people. So keep those coming in the chat, Heather, if you want to keep going.
Would also want to ask if anyone is trying to learn soft skills. In the past, I was able to do it through the job center where I live, but I don't see too many classes for that. So is anyone even interested in that? Because it is becoming important, more obviously important. I'm not sure how to quantify it, but anyone thinking of doing that or actually doing that?
That's a really good point because really most of the examples I'm going to talk through were more like technical things, but that is a really good point about soft skills too. Like I have worked at employers that will have like a book club about soft skills topics. I don't know if anybody's had that experience, but that's a really good point. Like what when you were talking about the class you took, like was it just for just a general class for any profession of like soft skills or
Yeah, it was either communication workshop or managing meetings, um, which then I later became even an instructor in that workshop.
okay.
It comes from the job center here. I live in Sunnyvale, California, and
Okay.
we have a job center that has a lot of classes that they provide you that you can come and join, and there's a lot of soft skill ones. And
Gotcha.
you can't really do that with LinkedIn Learning or all the other options out there because this is a lot more interactive, I think,
Mm-hmm.
right? More
Mm-hmm.
personal.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just generally talking to people. And also, I mean, in the past, Women in Big Data, we have offered some presentations and workshops for those type of things. And we
Yeah.
don't have anything lined from the Bay Area chapter. We don't have anything lined up at the moment, but we could certainly rethink those as well again.
Yeah, well, and we do have the library on YouTube and probably links from the blog to the YouTube videos. But
Right.
yeah, during the pandemic, especially, I think it was a lot of soft skill ones.
Yeah, but these are all good questions, so keep them coming.
Mm-hmm.
Marge, I think this is also, I know, Heather, you're gonna have a lot of it to talk about mentors. So let's also save this for right now, Margie, and um, we'll come back to this, okay?
Okay, so and something else people always ask me about too is finding time. How do I even find time to learn? So my situation is that I work full time and it's always 8 to 5. Like it's never a day where you get to leave early or kick back. It's just one of those jobs. It's 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I have a lot of caretaking responsibilities outside of work. And so I don't have a lot of free time. So these tips are from me experimenting with like how to find time given my situation. So if you have any bad habits, I'm going to say air quotes, bad habits with air quotes, but like, if you think about your week, um, it- do you spend like an hour a week doom scrolling or, watching like maybe binge watching something, is there time in your week where you could replace sort of like a bad habit that doesn't really make you feel good at the end of it with some learning time? I always remind people, take any training that your employer sponsors, like whether that's they'll pay for your time or pay for your registration fees or pay for your travel or whatever that means for your employer. Always take advantage of whatever learning time your employer offers. Also, something I've been practicing lately is learning at work. And so I know this one's like a little tricky. I talked about earlier, I mentioned about feeling kind of stuck at a job where I couldn't learn cloud. So I know this doesn't always work, but depending on your work situation, do you have the kind of job where you get like two 15-minute paid breaks? Could you take that time and learn? I know some jobs are like you have to record your time sheet down to like every 15 minutes. What do you do? So that can be a little tricky if you're in that situation. Um, but also, I'm finding that if I'm a good teammate and I'm meeting my deadlines, that no one's really going to notice if I take like 30 minutes a day at work and learn something, especially if it's sort of adjacent to the job that I have now. So again, I know it really depends on your work situation, if that could work for you too. Also think about, if you find during your workday, if you have the kind of job where you like can take you have your phone with you, is there time during the day where you're like doom scrolling or doing something like that at work and no one really notices that time being not focused on work? Then maybe you could take that time and learn too. And then I also try to take advantage of any quiet times, which that kind of makes me laugh because our household is just usually very loud. It's usually not quiet at home. But like one, for me personally, this is sort of silly, but one thing I've noticed of when I have time that I can maybe listen to like a podcast or an audiobook is if I'm like doing batch cooking. So like I'm getting ready to like prepare for cooking like several meals all at once and I'm like chopping the veggies, so I'm at the counter. A lot of times I can like I can get something in at that time. So it's really just about like finding time based on your life and your schedule and what works best for you. And then also, I think another thing to mention too is if you have, if you commute into the office, there could potentially be some time there. And so with that, would people like to share, just to kind of like inspire other people to think creatively, where do you have time in your week to learn? Like, is there a way you could find like 15 minutes a day?
Yeah, I would say I used to, well, my dog passed away, but that's not the point. During
Oh,
dog walks times, it's an excellent time to listen to audiobooks or podcasts in general. So, but now I need to restart it's also a reminder for myself that I need to restart my walks and make those times because that's actually a really good time to have a downtime and listening to other things. Obviously, if you live in a loud places, can be a little bit more challenging than others, but
Mhm.
I do find that that's one of my favorite times to listen to things.
I find myself reluctant to start anything like learning or listening or reading something if I am not sure I have at least half an hour because I need to like get into it and do something. And I'm like, oh, it's 15 minutes. And then I have to go here, drive there, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's not worth it. And I don't know if it's actually true, but I hate it because then I waste my time. I know I have 15 minutes, but I can't quote unquote do anything in it. And then I play games on my phone and watch reels and shorts, etc.
I definitely understand that mindset. I have that too. I definitely know what you're saying, and that's something I really do struggle with. And I'll talk in a minute about like planning things, about how you can plan things. And I have found that planning things out helps me overcome that more. But I do agree that like 15 minutes is almost too short of an amount of time, like to get focused. Doesn't it seem like 30 minutes is like the bare minimum? Because it takes like, I don't know, maybe like 10 or so minutes to get focused
Yes.
into it, and then that only leaves you with like 5 minutes. But maybe if it's like one, like maybe if you are learning something, but there's been something that was hard to learn, maybe just like one specific thing that you're kind of like stuck on or still thinking about, maybe 15 minutes is enough time. But I do agree with you that 15 minutes is like really a short amount of time.
Yeah, Margie says that she uses her commute time to watch YouTube. So I'm assuming using public transportation, not driving. uh, so that's another, if you do commute with public transportation, yeah, that's a fantastic time to use to either watch or even listen to things. Um, I will say with the 15-minute, I think that if you have, let's say you just want to practice solving problems, if you're in that category, 15 minutes is great because you have a de facto time limit that some interviewers use, like, you have to solve it in a certain amount of time. And so even if you don't solve whatever one question that you're trying to solve in that time frame, that gives you an idea of like how much you need to improve, right? So
Yeah, I think for SQL, actually, that could work because I need to be able to like get into the mindset and, do write the query and everything, and I just like slowly get into it, blah, blah, blah.
yeah, so I
Mm,
think it's like Heather said, probably planning things and
Yeah.
picking and choosing the right topic, perhaps.
Yeah. We also have a question about Blinkist and other apps that summarize books by Nicole. And Tammy is suggesting listing and prioritizing activities, define things to take time from, and to visualize your choices. Not sure what you meant by visualizing, like visualizing, imagining yourself doing it, or creating a visualization of how much time you spent on doing things. Could both be kind of good to see that you're investing time in yourself, I guess.
Yeah, Tammy, do you want to add, like, clarify this or add to this? Maybe she can't talk right now. Nicole, so have you found those apps to be useful for you, like the apps that summarize the books? Have
No,
you
I've just read about them and I wonder how effective they are because everything's an investment and it's like you're spending so much money on so many different apps. And I just wonder if, like, in terms of learning and kind of getting the high level view, if it's useful or if anybody has experience with that.
Gotcha?
And so I think you mentioned Blinkist. Was that one of the apps
Yeah.
mentioned? Okay. So I guess it maybe in 2023, I had a subscription to Blinkist, but I did not renew it. Um, I mean, it's like it was a good idea. There's something about it that didn't like sync well with me. I don't know, or that didn't like work well for the way my mind works. Like I did feel like I could get through a lot more things. But if you think about like a book, that would take like let's say an audio book that's going to take you like 8 hours, and they condense it down to like 15 minutes or less. It's like, do you really get a lot of value from that? Um, like for me, that answer was sort of ended up being no. Like it just, I don't know, it just was too much because then you sort of have the mindset of like, okay, well, I just did that in 15 minutes. What's the next book? And for me, like, it's not really what I enjoy. Like, I actually really do enjoy reading, and listening to audiobooks. So it sort of felt like it was taking away something that I really like to do. Um, I think I found like maybe a couple interesting books that way, but overall for me, it just really wasn't worth it for me. And also too, it may have been the topics. They weren't very, the books that I remember listening to, they weren't really technical. And usually a lot of my time is like trying to learn technical things. So it may just not have been a good fit for what I was trying to learn.
Okay, thank you.
I wonder if I will imagine that they will be more useful to find whether it's worth your time to read the book rather than like learning from those summaries, perhaps.
Yeah. Um, and so how to stay organized? I think because if you're thinking of learning, like the way my learning goes, it's usually something like if I'm learning on my own time, it's going to be spread across like several like weeks to maybe months, like it's sort of like usually bigger things that I'm trying to learn. So I recommend really trying hard to set a goal with a date. So, for me, like having the goal of I want to become like a cloud data engineer, that's a horrible goal. But like a good goal would be, I want to read book X in the next 2 months. Or if it's a certification you're thinking of doing, like I want to take the certification exam on such and such date. So it's really important to sort of have a date so you're kind of like time box and it keeps you focused. I really do like the idea of trying to plan a little bit up front. So if let's say you're thinking you're going to you're going to read a book, like I do like to think of it as like trying to plan it out like chapter by chapter. When would I be able to read this? But just because you have a plan, you're going to have to evaluate it all the time. Like we've said earlier, life happens and stuff gets in the way, and you have to pause your learning, and you may have to update your plan. Um, and for me, I don't know if this resonates with anyone else, but I'm a very curious person and I get distracted really easily. And I go down rabbit trails all the time just because I'm curious about stuff. So, one thing to stay organized that I've had to start doing is to be like really, really pay attention to when I get on one of these rabbit trails and stash it somewhere. So, I usually have, when I'm like keeping up my notes for whatever I'm learning, I usually have a section in the document that's like, this would be awesome to learn later, like for later, just to like really, really stay focused. And I wanted to show when I'm talking about a plan, like this is what I mean that has really helped me, like a learning plan. That's what I call it, a learning plan. There's probably other names for it. Um, but this is the type of thing that helped me last year earn certifications. And so I just made it, it's just like a Google sheet. So any software where you can make a table or any kind of app on your phone, just a way where you can kind of list out what it is that you want to learn. Kind of like what type of learning is it? Like, is it a video, where you're gonna need like your earbuds and a good Wi-Fi or, whatever, just so you kind of know like what you need to complete it. And about how long it's going to take and when it's scheduled. And then I just check it off as I get through it. And you can see that it's like super easy to move these dates because life happens and all the time, right? Dates have to get moved out. But I find this is a really good way to stay organized and motivated too. Um, so learning with others, right? That was a question already about how do you find people? Was that the exact question? Was how do you find people to learn with?
Yeah, people who are on a trajectory, same trajectory you are,
Okay.
maybe like, you're intermediate or beginner, or sometimes it's intimidating to go to a meetup event with a bunch of data science engineers kind of thing. And I'm just wondering, like,
Mhm.
are there other outlets?
Gotcha. So these are some of the things that I have done, and
Oh, we lost her, so we'll wait until she rejoins.
Hmm.
But some of the so there's some discussion about favorite tools to track for planning. So if you want to join in that conversation. And also, I would say for learning with others, I know it's always useful to have somebody who is learning the same thing at the same time, but you could use just a friend who is also learning. It may not be the same thing, but use them as a accountability friend. So it keeps you on your toes. Like, if you say aloud to them that this is what you're gonna do, you could also have them keep you honest to that promise to yourself, right? So that's something that I will say it's like a little bit that may alleviate the necessity to look for somebody that is learning exactly the same thing as you. I don't know if that's helpful to you or not. And because I know a lot of you here are students, in terms of resources, I know Heather touched on a little bit about using company time, and then like you have a lot more leverage in terms of how to control your time. So make sure to use that time. I know we wish sometimes that we were still a student, even though it was still a stressful time. But um, the school also has, every school also has a lot of resources that you could take advantage of. For example, the soft skills career centers often um, offer like a lot of resources that you could take advantage of. So make sure
And I
to,
think licensing, if it's a software like Tableau or Power BI, they have programs for students that you can have a license for an entire year or whatever, as long as you have, I think for Tableau for a while, it was if you just have an EDU email, that's enough.
yeah, so
Interesting.
definitely take advantage of those two perks as a student. Heather, we have you back maybe, hopefully.
I am back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That is what I get for joking. I was just joking before we started about roaming blackouts and like that it was really cold here today. That's what I get for joking about that. But I am back. Give me just a moment here and let me get my screen, share my screen again. It looks like I got to be a co-host again. So let's see if I can get this back. I'm having troubles getting my monitors arranged.
Yeah, no problem. It's not the first time that this kind of things happen, so we definitely understand.
I was like, oh, it just everything went black. I was like, oh my goodness. Let's see here. And I'm really struggling with my monitors is the problem right now. Okay, let's see.
So on the chat, I know Nicole asked about favorite planning tools. What do you like using, Nicole, personally?
I've used both Asana and Notion. I like them both.
And Alan is using Notion. Those are like, I would say Notion is pretty popular. Uh, a lot of people use it for everything, like note taking. Um, I'm not as well versed in it, so it takes me a little while to get organized. So I couldn't necessarily use it for note taking, but I've seen people who have taken notes using Notion. It's actually really, I could see how, I mean, once you become well versed in it, it's very useful. I don't know, there's so many tools out there, but sometimes I just like writing things just in a text editor, because I also tend to get distracted fairly easily, and not having the all the extra items that are actually meant to be useful. It's kind of nice. That's my personal thing. I have to switch back and forth, obviously, because text editors are definitely very limited. So,
I use Keep a lot for small things that I want to get back to, but are not part of the main notes if I'm watching a video or something. And I have a lot of, I have a Samsung tablet, so everything is in Samsung Notes. But then it was mostly because I could write in it with the stylus. And if my handwriting is good enough, it can translate it into typed characters. But then again, now I'm typing a lot more instead of the stylus. By the way, just wanted to make a note that I posted something about Tableau. Makeover Monday is a huge thing that has been going on for 7 years already, maybe. I don't know. There's actually a book as well, and it's running differently now than it used to. But look up Makeover Monday. Look up if whoever wants to learn Tableau with people. There's a huge community, and they're very, very supportive and very helpful. And they just want to help you with anything, with any questions that you have. And of course, there's Tableau Public, which you can just post any visualization you make.
yeah, the makeover, is it Monday or Tuesday?
Makeover Monday and something Wednesday. That's the like very technical one that you have to
Gotcha.
recreate something.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. So that's the one that I was thinking.
That's
Gotcha.
that's the like higher level when you think you're like good enough. It's like I'm gonna try and do that.
Yeah, so these communities are actually really nice. You kind of have to try out and find your niche, I feel like, because like there's also a personality preference to the type of people you want to interact with. So, but all of these communities are great. So definitely I will encourage you to check out. Okay, Heather, you're back.
You guys are awesome at stalling for time. I appreciate that. So, learning with others, I think that's where I was at. Um, these are some of the events that I have done. So, and it's been a mix of in-person and virtual events. So, hackathons, datathons, book clubs, red teaming challenges. How do how do you even find these events? You ask your network, follow your heroines on social media, like on LinkedIn. You never know what people are going to share or post about. Ask like your teammates at work. You never know who might be interested in learning the same thing that you're learning in. I find that's really useful if your employer does like maybe all the planning for the year and like yearly reviews at the same time. Like if in January everybody's planning their goals for the year, it might be easier that way. And I see a question. I do see a raised hand.
Yes, it's me. What is red teaming challenges?
Um, I I'll show the next screenshot. You can see like an actual screenshot of the one I did. This one was have you ever heard like in cybersecurity world, red teaming as in like trying to make software. The one I did was for Gen AI chatbots,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the chatbot to say something inappropriate or incorrect. So just in general, like red teaming things are usually like focused in on trying to get software to do something that shouldn't do. And then also I wanted to say when you were talking about learning Java, this is like what popped into my mind about I feel like right now all the Gen AI assistants, so the AI assistants and like the chatbots, it is like such a good way to learn. And so, I'm thinking of like GitHub Copilot or, in like I work in AWS cloud. So, there's an Amazon Q is their assistant. So just thinking about how if you're learning on your own, AI assistants can help you a lot and help you learn, especially when it's like syntax. I find that very helpful even in my daily job of having to switch between code bases, and just like keeping the syntax straight. But it can help you too, even if you're learning with other people. So I feel like right now all the AI assistants are like really good ways to learn.
Thanks.
Eh, sure. And I just want to say that for me, because the question was about, I think, how do you find people to learn with? I think was the question. Um, for me, like it was a challenge to find people to learn with, but once I found people to learn with, it was just much better for me. And so, if you want to hear more about my struggles as I try to learn cloud, because I literally started trying to learn on my own, and it was a horrible experience, and I talk about it more in this video. It's there's a YouTube channel called Foobar Serverless. That's where this series of videos are at. And just for me, I just find it a lot more motivating and fun to learn with other people. And these are some of the events that I have done. So here's the one that's like the Generative AI Red Teaming Challenge. It was sponsored by a company called Humane Intelligence and the government organization NIST. So that was like really interesting that it was like government and like a company, it was probably a nonprofit actually, sponsoring these events. I've done like a Genomics in the Cloud book club. This is where, this is the project we worked on, right? We did a data science competition. DataKind is another company that often has events going on. And I think it was like last summer, I participated in a hackathon that was like a soup tech hackathon. And I just am trying to say that like most of these things, like I found pretty much through LinkedIn. So people that I follow on LinkedIn announce these things, and then I was able to join them and like meet more people that were in the same place as me. So with that, is there anybody out there? I know I missed some of the chat, but is there anybody out there that wants to share in the chat that if you're looking for collaborators on anything right now?
Yeah, this is also your chance. Maybe you're the person that you're looking for, maybe joining this call. So
Yes.
uh, just join in the chat and like just say, hey, this is what I'm learning. Would you like to join me? Don't be shy. This is really how we find people, is to push yourself and have the courage to ask for help for sure.
Absolutely.
For visualizations, oh, someone wrote something.
SQL Server and Cloud Integration, Tulapo is wanting to learn that, I'm assuming. So if anybody else wants to join them, feel free to get in touch with them.
As I started saying, for visualization, there's an organization called Data Visualization Society, and they have like a long list of buddies that you can put your name down and like general geographic area if you want to meet in person and what you're looking to improve on and stuff like that. And you can connect with people. Obviously, if they put their LinkedIn link or their phone number or something like that or email, then obviously they're open for people to get in touch with them. So, but that's very much visualization, not so much analysis, I think. Okay, Software Engineering and AI Skill by Yang. And you're welcome to leave in the chat your either LinkedIn profile link or an email or any way that you're comfortable for people to get in touch with you, and then you can actually start learning together or supporting each other.
Yeah, that's right.
Possibly even you can go back to Meetup and send a chat there, I think.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to learning in public, and I realize now can you guys see the Zoom, is the Zoom window kind of blocking the slides?
No?
Okay, good. All right, good. I was worried the view looked funny now. Um, Learning in public, that can mean a lot of different things, but the reason that it's good, I think, is that it just creates this really positive online presence for you. And when you're thinking about advancing your career, it really lets employers see how you think about things and what you're interested in and the type of person that you are a lifelong learner. And so when I say learning in public, that can mean lots of things. It can mean like posting to LinkedIn, it can mean writing blog posts, it could be publishing videos, it can be like local professional meetups, like meetups like this one that are virtual or even, local ones in your area. It can mean having public GitHub repos. So it means a lot of different things. And, each person I think just has to find what works best for them and what they like. Because for me personally, I like giving these kind of talks, but I hate making videos to publish, like YouTube videos. I just hate that. Like I much would prefer writing. So I think just try them out, and kind of see what works best for you. And as far as like fear of learning in public, like I definitely had that. And I feel like it's taken me 4 or 5 years-ish to get over that. And so if anybody else has that, so for me it was thinking, first off, what if no one cares about this? What if I post it and no one reacts, no one cares? What if I say something wrong? I think I had a fear of that. So those kind of fears, honestly, to get over it, I think I just had to push through it. Like I just had to hit publish and just like once I hit publish, like the world, like things didn't fall in, right? Nobody was messaging me like, oh, you have a typo in your LinkedIn, or whatever. Um, so it's really just hit publish and just see what happens. But another aspect of it is that if you think about the things that let's say you're learning about quantum computing. Let's say that's the next thing you want to learn. If you spend 10 minutes learning about that, you already know a lot more than most people. So if you are sharing what you're learning, there's always somebody that can benefit from it. So I try to think of it as like when I share my learnings, when I'm learning in public, I do it because I think it will help other people. It's not that I'm trying to say like, look at me, or whatever. It's more that it could benefit someone else. Um, and these are three people who I really, really respect for learning in public. So, my advice to you is to find if it's something that you want to learn, if something you want to start doing, but you're nervous about it, just find someone that is in your industry or has the job that you like and just kind of see what they're doing. But these are three people that I really, really respect. So, Lynn and Abigail and Marcia, these are their YouTube. I mean, I'm sorry, these are their GitHub repos, but they also publish videos on YouTube and do a lot of other things, not just GitHub. And would anyone like to share? Is there anyone that you admire for learning in public? Just something that you enjoy watching, that you've enjoyed learning that maybe other people would benefit from.
Follow Heather. I feel like I
Oh,
definitely keeps me like I said, you definitely have inspired me to like, oh, I could do better. You
oh,
definitely
thank
have more
you.
limited time. So
Thank you.
even
That
just for
means a lot.
those aspects, I feel like following people can be beneficial.
Mm. And I know I was looking up at the time. I see we're like pushed up against it's on the hour. So I'll just go on to the next slide here while people might be putting that in the chat. But just the last slide is how do you stay motivated? So for me, planning really, really helps me. Like when I showed that learning plan, it just helps me see how much is left. I can see how much progress I've made and how much is left. I really try to stay active and like focused on what I have planned to learn. Because, like I said, I fall into these rabbit holes where I get distracted and it just drags out the amount of time that I'm spending on something. And it may not necessarily help me be focused on my goal. So that can be demotivating. Um, don't be worried if you have to pause your learning and resume. Life happens all the time, and for all of us that are learning outside of work, there's just so much stuff that can get in the way. So, just know that it's normal to have to pause your learning and start again. Just always be evaluating how your plan is going and make sure that you're still gonna, that what you're learning is beneficial to your goal. And don't be afraid to switch approaches if you need. So, me as an example, when I started trying to learn cloud on my own, it was awful. And I really struggled and wasted a whole bunch of time. I feel like if I had just started from, I'm going to find someone to learn with, it would have gone a lot better. But it took me, I don't know, just being prideful. I think it took me a long time to like be able to admit that of like, you can't do this by yourself. You're going to have to find some people to learn with. Or if you decide you're going to commit to a book or a certification or whatever it is, and you get a few weeks into it and it's just not what you thought, don't be afraid to switch. Grab another book, decide you're not going to do the certification, just be flexible with yourself. And with that, I will share my contact information. I have started trying to use LinkedIn a lot more in the last couple years. Please send me a connection request on LinkedIn. I'll gladly accept it. There's my GitHub link to my GitHub and also my blog. But I'm sharing this with you not to just be like, look at me, but like, there's mistakes in there, right? I just want you to see like it's okay to learn in public and like have typos and make mistakes and like say the wrong thing. Like it's okay. Like I'm still here, nothing awful's happened to me, like no one's yelled at me or anything like that. Um, and if you are comfortable sharing your email address with me, you can use the QR code or just go straight to that link there. You can get a free learning plan template like the one that I showed earlier, like the picture that I showed earlier. So, like I know I'm looking at the clock. I know it's 4 minutes after. Like I can definitely stay a few more minutes if people have other questions or anything they want to ask about.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your perspective of how to choose the material. Because I know there could be a paralysis like, oh, which one is the best? How do you have strategies on like picking the material to learn for learning?
And so something that I did struggle with, I earned an AWS cloud certification last year, and I really struggled with picking the learning material. Like at first I had, I think I got a book and it was just so boring. And I was like, oh, this is awful. Like I'm never going to make it through. So I eventually settled on, like, I think it was a Udemy course from one of their well-known trainers. I think his name is Stefan, but I can't think of his last name. But the reason that I switched is I like his style. He's like a very motivating person, and you can tell that he really likes what he does and he wants people to learn it, like really learn it, like not just memorize it. I felt like for the book that I had chosen, it was just like, here, memorize a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, ugh, I don't know, or don't really want to do that. So for me, I think I'm getting better at like picking the kind of materials, um, because I want it to match up like with kind of like my personality. Like, the Stefan guy is like more of like an outgoing type person. Like you can tell he's like a real person and not a robot. And I really like that about him. And that it's for me, like I know how I like to learn. I don't like to memorize things, but some people that's what they like to do. They really like to memorize things. So try to find something that like goes with your learning style would be the advice that I have.
one last question if anybody wants to take the last bit. I know we're over time, so want to be also respectful for your time, Heather. Okay, so if nobody else, I shared a link to a forum if you are interested in volunteer for the Bay Area chapter. We're always looking for volunteers. We have all kinds of opportunities, something that it's not very time like or a large commitment to small commitment. I will say that much. And yeah, and if you're interested in getting in touch with Heather, I know Heather, would you like to share your LinkedIn here on the chat?
Yes,
And
I finally see the chat now, so I can do that. But
oh, okay.
will the chat be available in the see if I'll copy this out. Let me escape out of here. Um, is will it still be like when you watch the recording, will you be able to see the chat?
No, but like the recording will show the what you're showing right now, of course.
Okay, well let me just leave it there then. It's just my name at LinkedIn. It's just Heather Dash Woods.
Yeah, so and thank you so much, Heather. And
Absolutely.
I know you keep us, well, you keep me motivated for sure. So
Oh, thank you. Thanks everybody for being here. This was like a really nice way to start 2025, I think.
yeah,
So thanks for organizing this.
and also a little bit of I don't have the link right now, but Women in Big Data is also doing a collaboration with Data Camp, and I think the applications to get a license, it's up. So go check out a LinkedIn post to sign up or to apply. That is, I don't know how many more spots there are, but feel free to do that. That's another good way to keep you motivated. Is like to have a subscription because you have that accessible, and it's also organized in certain ways that may fit your style. With that, yeah, thank you so much again, Heather, and everybody for joining. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thanks everybody.